All right, so today on the show we have the wonderful, awesome Mike Shaw. Mike, how you doing?
Doing awesome. Thanks for having me. So
Absolutely.
stoked.
Yeah, definitely. So for those who don't know you, tell us a bit about your story. Where are you from originally?
I'm from Vernon BC. Well, actually, if you want to go back a little bit farther than that, I am from England originally.
Mm-hmm.
I moved to Canada and pretty much directly to Vernon when I was 6 years old, 1993. So if you can do the math, you figure out how old I am. But yeah, 6 years old, 93. I think that's still to this day one of the best things that's ever happened to me was when my family made the decision to move to the Okanagan because this valley is a pretty special place.
Yeah,
I'm grateful I got to grow up here, and it's a bit of an incubator for opportunity, some growth, and it was certainly, I was surrounded by like talented athletes and other performers that were having a lot of fun that I was growing up with. So I feel pretty lucky to have grown up here.
Yeah. Why Vernon BC? Like, out of all the places in the world that your family could have picked, how did they land on Vernon BC?
I think the story as it goes, like my family has roots in Okanagan Center. There's actually a heritage house down in Carr's Landing at Kopi Peak Park called Gibson House. And my middle name's Gibson because that was my grandmother's maiden name, and that's where she grew up. And so Vernon was it. She was here through all the fruit trade. And my dad looked at Vernon and Kelowna as two options. And for whatever reason, Vernon won out. Yeah, like Vernon was it. And so he decided to take our family to Vernon. And I think he spent some time there actually. He may have owned a house there in like the 70s or something before he went and moved all around Europe and stuff like that. So yeah, but Vernon, and then now I live in Lake Country, so I kind of split the difference. I'm like in between, like 20 minutes to Vernon, 25 to Kelowna. It's super nice to be back in the Okanagan because I left for a while too, and it's good to be here.
Nice, very nice. And tell us a bit about growing up here in the Okanagan and how you got into skiing, because that's what you've become sort of famous for.
Yeah, I mean, growing up through school, I tried every sport under the sun. Like I played the volleyball, basketball, played tennis, badminton, rugby, you name it. Rugby was the one team sport that I played for the majority of high school, but I started excelling in sports that you could do outside here. Things like skiing, snowboarding, wakeboarding, cliff diving, trampolines, diving boards.
All the adrenaline ones.
Yeah, like I don't know, all the sports with wheels and or sliding and flipping. Anytime I find myself upside down, I got pretty excited. Like I loved sort of pushing my limits, like finding my edge and then going just a little bit further, because that's that space where it's kind of scary and it's uncomfortable. There's some fear, there's some anxiety, but there's growth, there's progress, there's learning, the magic of life. Yeah, they all coexist in that little space where you're pushing the envelope. And so the sport that I fell in love with was freestyle skiing. It was the one that I knew from a very young age that it was what I would do for the rest of my life.
Yeah, cool, very cool. And tell me about your journey in freestyle skiing. Where did it start, where did it go, and what happened?
Okay, loaded question, everybody. When I was young, my dream was to compete, go to the X Games or the Olympics, stand on top of the podium. It was kind of all my peers. We were in that same boat to strive for excellence in competition. And my sport disciplines were big air, slopestyle, and half pipe skiing. So they were fairly new disciplines in the sport. And I had success as a young competitor. I did really well on the provincial circuit, did well on the national circuit of contests, had even broke onto the international stage doing contests at the World Skiing Invitationals that were hosted in Whistler every year. And everything was going well, but do you think you get to like a high level in freestyle skiing without crashing or getting hurt? No, freestyle skiing isn't free. No. And I ended up getting hurt a couple times. I broke both my ankles in addition to a slew of other injuries, but the ankles were the worst because they
kind of need those.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that's lucky is you're literally wearing a cast, like you're wearing a ski boot. So you can, but which is a bit of a blessing and a curse because I always tried coming back too soon and then re-injuring it, and it was a bit of a saga. I broke one ankle took a year and a half to get better, and then when I was coming back for the next one, and I'd missed 2 full seasons of really competing at my potential in skiing, and then coming back, I injured myself in a trampoline in a foam pit. I hit the bottom. I broke the other ankle. Deja vu. The X-rays were identical. I was like, no, another year and a half. This is. I felt my dream slipping farther and farther away, and I sure enough, I missed 3 back-to-back winters of competitive sport. Yeah. And that was hard. As I was like 19 years old, I was supposed to be making it, like hitting the, like, you know, all of my friends were doing it. They were literally all getting like big endorsement deals and sponsors and stuff like that, and I was just almost there. But where one door closes, you've got to trust that another one will open, and the door that opened for me was freestyle ski coaching. And I started out coaching skiing so I could still stay involved, and that kind of snowballed. I became the coach of the elite team in British Columbia, so the provincial halfpipe and slopestyle team, and then from there moved up to a sort of national development program where I was coaching elite halfpipe skiers from across the country who were targeted to go onto our Canadian Olympic team.
That's pretty good. That's a pretty good door.
Yeah, and I was doing it in a different way. I was coaching on the World Cup circuit, and my goal then became to coach at the Olympics. Unfortunately, in 2013, December 16th, like right towards the end of the year, but the start of the new winter, I was down at a World Cup skiing contest with my team. My top athletes were competing in the World Cup, and in a bit of like a routine training day, and an afternoon we were all skiing together. I performed or demonstrated a trick that one of the other guys we were both doing, and it was just a 720. So 2 rotations, take off forwards, land forwards, pretty standard. Like I've done it 1,000 times, quite easily, 1,000. So I ended up performing this trick, and I landed in a bad place on the slope, and I landed in some soft snow, which pitched me forwards pretty violently onto my head and neck. Yeah. And in a scorpion-like action, I felt it. It was like this brief pop and bang, and then a sharp bit of pain, and then nothing, and then I was tumbling downhill, and I was crashing uncontrollably, which is unusual because, you know, like whenever you fall anywhere, the human reaction is to bounce back or get up. Yeah,
or stop yourself.
Everyone has an innate trait of resilience. Like we all bounce back. It's human. Like we're survivors, and I couldn't stop falling. Yeah. And I was tumbling downhill, and I knew something was very different about this crash. And then it hit me, and I was like, a brief but sharp pain in my neck. And then nothing. And like I couldn't fall. I couldn't stop. I couldn't feel anything. I stood just stopped, face down, just panting, like head down in the snow. Just like no. Like I just broke my neck. And I didn't just break. I can't move. I can't feel anything. Yeah. Paralyzed? No. That was like the worst fear I had for the sport. The biggest game over. My previous freestyle ski coach was a guy named Josh Dewick, he broke his back when he was coaching myself and my teammates when we were young, some 10 years before that. Wow. So I knew exactly what a spinal cord injury looked like. Subsequently, he turned into a mentor. One of my first thoughts was like, I need to talk to him because he's also a Paralympic sit skiing champion. The first person to ever backflip was he's amazing. We should get him on the podcast, really. But the guidance I had from him was critical. But in that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, I need to sort this out. And I mean, you can imagine for all the skiers and snowboarders out there, if there's a ski patroller that shows up and he gets on scene and he says, I need support. And I'm saying into his radio, he goes, I need support, I need all hands on deck, I got a code black.
Not what you want to hear.
No, and you know he's talking about you.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, you couldn't give me any other color. Like, literally, I'd take code red, code gray, whatever. Something different.
Pink or purple, please.
Yeah, something code pink would be great, but I was like, man, I knew it was serious. I knew I couldn't move. I knew what paralysis was. Everything in that moment came to a crashing halt, and that was the end of like freestyle skiing quite abruptly. I got taken off the snow that day, flown to Denver, which was the nearest trauma center in Colorado, and they did surgery. They fused my neck from my third vertebrae down, C3 to C7, so I've got 5 fused vertebrae in my neck.
Thanks.
I'd say we got a bit of a stiff neck now.
Yeah.
And that's my best material right there. That's my best joke.
Your dad jokes are going to be really good one day.
Oh my god, already working at it. But no, I got surgery that night. They fused my neck. They stabilized my spinal cord because that was ultimately what I'd injured, and gave me an opportunity to heal. When I woke up from surgery, I could just barely move my arms.
Yeah.
And that was the start to a very long journey.
Yeah.
To being back here to be able to walk into your home today and
so how long was that recovery from the moment you woke up to say being able to walk unassisted?
It was a slow process. I mean, ultimately it was really fast. Like
in the grand scheme
of time and comparative to other people who suffered similar injuries. Like my recovery started coming quite quickly. Not as fast as some people, but much faster than the majority. Like I don't know what the odds of recovering like mine are, like maybe 1 in a million, 1 in 10 million. I don't know. I've only met a couple of people who I've thought that had like, I was like, oh man, you got lucky.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm like, I feel it, all the gratitude for it every day, because I had an opportunity to heal, and it took me, like the first thing I did for myself was that 3 weeks after the accident, I could finally lift my arms up high enough to touch my face, so I was able to brush my teeth.
Yeah.
And so I started brushing my teeth one day, and I had tears in my eyes because I was just so happy I could do one thing for myself.
Yeah.
And then it became more rapid after that. Once the swelling and everything had sort of settled down in my spinal cord, it started to figure itself out. It was 7-8 weeks. I was taking steps with walking aids and
that's pretty quick.
And a physiotherapist, and then at 3 months I walked out of the hospital.
Oh wow.
And I still had some reliance on a wheelchair and certainly like forearm crutches. I was on crutches for almost a full year, and walked with a cane well into the second year of recovery, but found myself back on a pair of skis on the anniversary date of my crash. Like
wow.
Even that same, actually
1 year later.
1 year later, yeah, I even got back in the mountains the same winter I crashed in a sit ski. I got some cool opportunities with the Live It Love It Foundation to get out in Revelstoke and do some sit skiing and understand the power of adaptive sport.
Yeah.
Because for those of you, all the listeners out there who know the power of sport, it's profound. But the power of adaptive sport like blows regular sport out of the water. Yeah. Because just to show up to the mountain or to the court or to the ice or to wherever that day, it takes so much effort and resilience and stuff like that. That the fact that once you get out and do and just are like playing again, it has such a profound impact. And anyway, that perspective was really cool. But I carried on, and that was, well, the accident happened 6 years ago. It'll be 6 years ago this December.
Wow.
And so a lot has happened since then. I got back on snow a year to the date. I became an ambassador to spinal cord injury research for a charity called the Wings for Life Foundation the following year, and ran in a charity race and made it a full 10 kilometers, which was something I never expected to happen. Yeah. And then 2 years back on snow again, and then 2 to 2.25 years after I accomplished the goal that I'd set well before I ever experienced a spinal cord injury, which was to go heliskiing.
Oh,
and so I got out in some real terrain and did some stuff, which was like so challenging, but I live by that, like finding your edge, knowing what you're...
To go heliskiing after being effectively paralyzed, like, what is your mindset when you're at the top of that mountain? Like terror, fear, thrill, excitement, and just pure adrenaline, not thinking?
Like all of those things, like everything, like fear, the unknown, not knowing how my body's going to react, excited to be there. But I'd say like the overwhelming feeling was like gratitude. I was so thankful. Like I still can remember very vividly looking out at it, and it was a beautiful day. The sun was shining, all these snow-capped mountain peaks. It was the coastal range near Whistler, BC. So we were across the valley from Whistler with Whistler Blackcomb Heli, and I was surrounded by I went with 2 incredible friends, and I had 2 of my very close friends who were making a documentary film about me, and so we shot the whole thing, and it was just spectacular. But the overwhelming thing, like I couldn't, like I was so full, like with gratitude for that moment. And there are times where I'll be on top of the mountain and I can still feel like I'm at the bottom, because there's also that feeling, that perspective of looking at it with the same eyes I used to, and knowing that I can't or shouldn't. I might be able to try, but it's probably not a good idea to attack the mountain the way I used to. So I have to look through it with a different lens, which is hard some days, a little bit like salt in the wound. But for the most part, I'm just lucky to be there.
Yeah. And gratitude has sort of become your thing, right? Like a lot of what you talk about when you're going around, because you talk to school age kids and do presentations everywhere now, is about gratitude, right?
Yeah, it's kind of it was at the foundation for my recovery and healing, but it's sort of the foundation of everything that I do now, every talk. And I've given talks all around on so many different topical areas, whether or not it's to like a corporate consulting group or to school kids or to conferences or whatever. But there's always a theme of gratitude, because it's truly powerful. Gratitude's number one, I think, or like most usable way that we can activate it is that it helps you frame setbacks in the grand scheme of things. So it gives you a perspective to think things just aren't that bad, and because it's counterintuitive to think when you're low about what you have to be thankful for, but even when we're feeling low and it's dark, it's a gloomy day, everybody has some of the days where you don't want to get out of bed, or everything's going just right until it's not, or when things never start out right, they're just it's like one of those, we have those, and it's counterintuitive to think about the things that we have to be thankful when you're there, but if you do, it lifts you up. And because gratitude gives you a feeling of the warm and fuzzies, like just try thinking about something or someone in your life that you love and you have so much thankfulness for. You hold them in your head and your heart, it feels good. And when you need a boost, you can use that as a tool to overcome adversity or challenge, keep moving forwards. And the elite athletes of the world do it, the elite business leaders, anyone really who's striving for excellence in their own lives, mothers, fathers, like people that have that kind of disposition, is incredibly powerful, and it has like impact and a ripple effect that goes way beyond just how small we are. And so now I've tried to carry that message around with me and spread the good word a little bit if I can.
Help people be grateful for the little things, like being able to brush your teeth.
Yeah, exactly. It's types of things, those things never show up on the radar of what we think. They're not even like a little blip of what we think we take for granted. It just doesn't even show up. So there's so much, but I think everybody's, by their very nature, grateful at some point. Like everyone says thank you, especially us Canadians.
For everything.
For nailing
thank you, sorry, I'm thank you.
Oh, sorry, thank you. Oh, sorry.
And so this traumatic experience has actually lent itself to a lot of really cool doors opening for you, in the sense, I mean, like you ended up on a TEDx stage at Stanley Park and have arguably ended up in some pretty cool places to talk to people about what's happened to you and to try and share your message so we can all learn from your experience instead of having to do it ourselves, right?
It's gifts come in all different shapes and sizes, and I was lucky, and I mentioned mentorship, and I really do believe that, finding people that have been there before you, that have blazed the trail ahead of you, like that can help in any aspect of your life. But I had my mentor was Josh, and he supported me that way, and he said these words that I'll never forget, that I've carried and said to other people as well. But it was like, Mike, this was right after I got hurt. He said, Mike, you've just been inducted into the Spinal Cord Injury Club. It's one of the most elite clubs in the world. You're going to get to meet some of the most incredible people, and you'll be exposed to these inspirational humans, and there will be gifts that reveal themselves over time. Although this doesn't feel like a gift right now. I wouldn't wish a spinal cord injury on my worst enemy. And they're devastating, not only to the people that have them, but to the families as well, like the support groups. Anytime there's trauma, it doesn't generally affect one person. But he said there will be gifts. So I was like, oh, okay.
Perfect.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll seek the gifts.
And
fortunately, one of them was gratitude, one of them was perspective. I I feel like I went from being like, in my 20s, pretty carefree living, like coasting and enjoying it and working hard and everything like that. But to be like, okay, now I just aged 50 years overnight with perspective and understanding what's truly important in life and what's not, and letting go of the small stuff that often we get caught up in. Like, I mean, we're all human, right? And everybody, like we live a life with these like ups and downs, but yeah, it was great to be able to put some of the things that I used to think mattered in perspective, and then realize what really mattered. That was, one of the gifts. But yeah, I feel lucky. But my doctor, Gavin, he's a great guy, Gavin Smart in Vernon, he said, Mike, you got to keep in perspective. He's like, you're the luckiest of the unlucky. Nobody's lucky who has a spinal cord injury.
Yeah.
But because it's also important to be able to be vulnerable and be able to admit to yourself that not everything is all sunshine and rainbows. Like I struggle, and it's part of the human experience. Yeah. There are ups and downs, there's balance and everything. You can't appreciate highs without lows. Yeah. And sometimes the lows, the depths that we go to sometimes, and there's a big discussion right now around mental health in the community and in society. And there's a perspective that I like is like, we talk about mental health. Everybody's got mental health. There's a stigma around it, as it's maybe not, it's more of like a mental, an illness or something that's affecting me, but everybody has mental health. And you can have a baseline. You can go for excellence in mental health, right? You can really work on it with meditation and all sorts of different. There's so many tools out there, but the whole idea of like, for me, going to those lows, I realized that my depths, the deeper, darker places that we go to, it just gives you a greater emotional capacity to appreciate new highs. Yeah. So like if your valley bottom is lower than you've ever felt like you've been in before, it just means your mountain peak got that much taller. Yeah. And if you've been there before, if you've stood on top and if you've enjoyed the sunlight and you smiled and breathed it all in, and you've been there once, you can be there again. Yeah. And I think that's a message that I like to tell people. Is like, if the going gets tough, know that it's not permanent. Yeah. It's like we've got so much to look forward to and so much to be thankful for. Yeah.
So would you say that? No, I'll ask it as a question. What is the biggest lesson that you've taken away from all of this to date? I'm sure there's more lessons to come.
Oh my goodness, that is we've talked so much about gratitude, but so that's an obvious one. But I'd say that's a challenging question to answer, but I think knowing that if it's not working out right now, it just means it's not finished yet, because it'll always work out. And it's an almost like blissful ignorance, but it's a trust as well that if like I said earlier, like if one door closes, another one will open. It's like you've got to let the cards land, and if it's not the hand you wanted to get dealt, just wait for the next hand, because it's gonna come. Yeah. And if it's not working out right now, it just means it's not finished yet, because it'll always work out. Yeah. And that sort of foresight, or that sort of vision, gives you the strength and fortitude to keep going, because failure sometimes gets a bit of a bad light, and people are talking about it more and more commonly these days, that failure is an opportunity to learn. Failure is an indication of progress. It's necessary. You have to fail forwards, that type of thing. That's what I always talk about is failing forward. Like, analyze the failure, learn the lessons, change your strategy, make sure that you're taking it and you're failing mindfully so that it's a progress point. But my trajectory wasn't a straight line upwards. It was full of twists and turns and setbacks and challenges, and times in hospital where things were not going right, times in life, like in my business. I run a business too, like doing the speaking and everything like that. It's all juggling it and keeping the forward momentum.
Yeah. So in all of that, in those learning moments, do you have like a most embarrassing or frustrating story that you're willing to share with the general public? And what did you learn from it? Like, what was the lesson that you were able to glean from it and go, okay, here's how I need to change my strategy?
There's one that I'll tell. How far back do you want me to go? You want me to go back
You
to
can
like
go as far, yeah, anywhere in your lifetime.
Shortly after the accident, that's when a lot of the lessons were really impactful because I was like so exposed. Like in my body, I couldn't feel anything in it, but I could feel like emotions. Like I had all these like weird things going on, but I couldn't feel much of anything. And I had just started moving my arms. I was still in a power wheelchair. I had been transferred to the rehabilitation center called GF Strong in Vancouver, and there was actually like a mess hall or like a rec room where you could have guests. And so one of the first weekends I was there, I had a big group of friends over, and we were all playing board games. Yeah. For those fans of their Settlers of Catan. Nice. It was a sick game. Anyway, we were playing Settlers of Catan, and there was probably 8 of us that like crowded around. Not everyone was playing, but I was on the board, and I couldn't quite move the pieces because I couldn't use my fingers properly, but I had someone help me with that. And it was the first night that I'd open a Gatorade bottle with my like palm. And anyway, things were going well, and I was stoked to have friends around. And it was the first time I felt like I had a life, and it was like 3 or 4 weeks in. And at one point, I was going, I think I need to go to the bathroom. And at that point, I could pee, I could void on my own. I'd been doing catheterizations, but I was like starting to pee, so the sensation, but usually it was kind of urgent. And I was like, I think I need to pee. And I hadn't really been on my own much at that time. So I said to my friend Braden, I'm like, Braden, can you come up with me to my hospital room? I just got to go and use the facilities. And I used to wear shorts, and I would pull up my one leg and use a pee jug. And anyway, get into the bathroom. I wheeled up there. He's waiting in the room, and I'm sitting there, and I'd been holding it, fighting it, and I just go, I release, and I start peeing. Oh no! And I'm like, thank goodness. I'm sitting there just sighing relief, and I go, oh, whoa, is it? Am I? Is that? Yeah, no, yep. I'm pooping right now.
Oh,
I was unloading into my wheelchair, and you could just imagine.
Your buddy's like, I wish he'd asked somebody else.
No. So I'm like desperately struggling. I'm getting embarrassed just talking about this, but I'm I sit there and I finish the pee, finish everything else, and I back out, I wheel out of the room, and I go into the hospital room where my friend Braden is standing, and I'm like, Braden, would you mind just hitting the nurse call button for me, please? And I'm like, I need some help. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, what's going on? Can I help you with anything? And I was like, just the nurse, please.
Just
and
press the button.
He pushes it one more time. He's like, really? What's going on? Nothing I can help with? I'm like, just the nurse. You can tell her. Yeah. Clean up on aisle 2.
Oh my gosh.
And
that's awesome.
So what happened after that? The nurse comes in, and that's where it gets really, like, your humility gets tested, because they have to put you in a sling, and they attach me to a crane, and they lift me out of the wheelchair and put me in bed so they can take my clothes off. And I'm like, that's okay, you can burn those. Like, I never want to see those again in my life. Look at the wheelchair. That somebody had to go and get that cleaned up, and then they washed me up, put on new clothes, put me in a nice big old set of Depends, like, got my diapers on now. I'm feeling better about things. Yep. And the whole ordeal took like around an hour. Yeah. And so when I went back down to play board games, it had been my turn for like the last 57 minutes. And they hadn't kept playing. They'd waited. All my friends. Aww. So incredible.
That's amazing.
And I'd never felt more like vulnerable up to that point in my life. And I realized that there was like a lesson in humility in that moment, and vulnerability, because I had to go back there and kind of chin up, and not literally because my steel rods in my neck are keeping my chin up, but like I had to go down there and just explain to people what had happened. And that was a lesson for me, that vulnerability is also okay. Mm-hmm. But God, was I embarrassed. There were some cute girls there. And
you're like, well, there goes that shot.
Just learning about my new body, everyone.
Yeah.
But
But there's also a lesson in love and friendship there, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's some real patience to wait 57 minutes for you to have your turn. Like, come on.
It totally takes a village, right? Yeah. And my community behind me, my immediate friend group, my family, of course, and then the broader community. Between like Vernon and Kelowna, I had an overwhelming amount of like emails and messages. There's still some times where I go back through and I'll get a note or something like that from someone, and there's a Facebook message or an Instagram message
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't remember seeing because I was on so many drugs
Yeah.
in the hospital and stuff like that, and then I
Yeah.
get to read these things, and it totally warms my heart.
Yeah, that's amazing. If you could give yourself a piece of advice anywhere in your lifetime, kid, teenager, adult, pre-accident, post-accident, what piece of advice would you give yourself that would impact you today?
I would go back to 16 or 17-year-old me who broke his first ankle. And I'd say, don't give up now and work as hard as you can. Stay focused. We all grow up dreamers, and we all grow up knowing like what we're going to accomplish and what we can achieve and everything like that. And at some point it changes. The voice of negative self-talk, self-doubt, whatever, as we become adults, it gets louder and louder. And I always wonder, like, did it have to? Why did it? Why are we our own biggest critic? I would go back and say, don't give up. Like, don't give up on a dream because of the time it's going to take, or because it's going to take hard work. The time's going to pass anyway. You might as well be working towards something that really lights your fire every day. I try to embody that now. That's where I'm trying to go with like my business life and work life now.
That's awesome. All of this stuff has happened. Life has happened. It's been 6 years now. You are in a successful business, public speaking, connecting to people, sharing your message and your story. And what's the goal? What's the game plan? Like, you're impacting a lot of people through these presentations, through these stories, through sharing and encouraging people to be grateful and to encourage gratitude and to appreciate all the little things in their lives. Where are you going with it? What do you want to see happen?
Amazing question. So yeah, this whole discussion around what's your why or your purpose, I connected with my purpose a number of years ago unknowingly when I started coaching and I started helping other people, and I realized I did have a bit of a knack for the coaching and had some great opportunities as a result. But since my accident, I've had a more credibility, I guess, and a voice to be able to do that from the stage or from a place like this. But I said, what is the way that I'm going to have the greatest impact in our world that I thought I could really make a difference? And I started a company with a few guys called Head Start Pro Performance Training. And we took it upon ourselves to try to solve or create a better way of approaching injury prevention, so we could prevent accidents like mine and some of the other injuries that happen to guys on our team from happening to young athletes and up and comers. Because there's a systemic benefit to preventing a lot of injuries to athletes. Like 2/3 of the injuries that happen to the over 400,000 injuries between that like 14 and 19 age group every year are because of sports. And so like I'm thinking bigger picture there, but like if we can bring that number down, we can have a real influence. And you've got to figure out what really makes people tick. And wanting to be the best at safety is on no athlete's radar.
No.
So he said, let's make we took a program that was based from a successful company called Safe Start that did injury prevention in the workplace. And we took their process, our co-founder, guy Larry Wilson, and modified it for sport. We teach kids emotional control, attention control, so they improve the way that they use their eyes and their mind. So they're better at their sport. Guess what? If you're better at your sport, better at using your eyes and your mind, you get hurt a lot less frequently too. So our injury reduction rates are anywhere between 30 and 80% from all the teams we've worked with. And we appeal to what the kids already want. They want to be better. We give them those tools. So that's why I think that they're willing to work on it and shift their behavior in a way that also achieves injury prevention benefits. So my goal for the next 10 years, the long game, is to build that program and connecting with provincial sport organizations and national sport organizations right now across the country. We've got partnerships with Sport for Life Canada and stuff like that. We put our course online so it's accessible to everyone. And I want to change the world and change the way that we look at injury prevention and performance training across the country and beyond. Who knows? Wow. That's the goal right now.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's cool. Yeah, I like that. The different focus on don't hurt yourself. Obviously, we've all been told that for forever, but don't hurt yourself because A, you'll be better, and B, you won't be out of the game for long periods of time.
It's a noble crusade, that's for sure. I also have goals and aspirations to carry on with speaking. I love it. It's like replaced the foothold that freestyle skiing had in my life, now public speaking, because you get the same nerves and endorphins and the same energy and the same rush from it, just with a lot less risk. And it's fun working with companies because I have a background in sort of business education and so on. So it's all coming together. And writing a book, oh God, There's a lot on the plate right now,
a lot
but
of
it's
things.
exciting. It's exciting.
Very cool. And what is a fun fact or weird fact about you that nobody would know?
A fun fact or a weird fact? My go-to is that most people don't know that I can't feel my legs. Like I can
You're
feel
very
part of them,
deceiving,
but
when you walk into a place.
No, I had a fun fact. I had a pet for a long time. His name was Max. He was a cat. He was 19 years old, and we spent a lot of time together when I was at home in Vernon recovering from my injury. But this cat was like the most hilarious. Anyway, I don't know if it's common to have a 19-year-old cat, but like
no, that's pretty old for a cat.
You think about it, like in Canada anyway, he was like legal to drive. He could vote. He could drink. Like
it's a liberated cat.
Yeah, buy those R-rated magazines. This cat was out there.
Yeah.
No, just. Joking, and I don't know why I brought up Max in this whole story, but yeah, anyway.
That's a fun fact. That's a weird fun fact. And I mean, I think people don't put enough emphasis on the importance of animals or like non-judgmental things in your life when you're in a place of vulnerability, right? Yeah. That's why therapy dogs and cats and rats and snakes or whatever does it for you. They're very important because they don't have judgment.
I back you 100%, and they perceive emotion better than anything. Mm-hmm. They live by feel. It's not lived by logic or analytics. It's all just what is like in a pack of dogs. Like there's a leader that gets there, and if you think about it, like even in like elephants, their herds can be led by the matriarch, can be the oldest female because she has the leadership feel. It's so cool that there's no discrimination or anything like that. It's all about how you feel. And when you have an animal with you, like it tunes into your emotions better than you can often. Back that 100%. I think it's so cool. Yeah, we can learn a lot from the animal kingdom.
Awesome. Well, is there anything that you would want an audience that's listening to the 100 Awesome People podcast to know? There's a lot of people that are either at the beginning, middle, or continuing stages of an entrepreneurial journey that are involved here. Is there a message that you would want them to carry forward?
Absolutely, and this one's easy. Know that we all have it within ourselves to push through. Mm-hmm. Humans, we are innately resilient. And if you don't have what it takes right now, maybe it's just not finished yet because you have what it takes. You can do more than you think you can. You can achieve more than your wildest dream. So it's important when you set goals, when you like fixate on your possibilities, aim high because it's incredible what we can all achieve. Yeah. Yeah, we've all got it. It's just a matter of opening up our potential and being like, being open to that possibility too. Yeah.
Absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Well, thank you so much for coming today and sharing your story. I really appreciate that. And we'll have to catch up and see where things go with you in the next 5 to 10 years.
Thank you so much for having me. So grateful. Today's been amazing.
Thank you for tuning in for today's episode, and please do leave your comments and reviews. If you enjoyed what you heard, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and share it with a friend. If you know someone in the Okanagan who has an awesome business or project with a great social impact, please nominate them through the website. Until next time, folks, stay